The Unitarian Church of Montpelier sits upon the traditional and unceded home of the Western Abenaki people. These lands and waters have been a site of meeting and exchange among indigenous peoples for thousands of years. We recognize the Abenaki as the traditional stewards of this landscape. We strive to respect and protect this land while honoring the legacy of Vermont's indigenous people, the Abenaki people of the Dawn. Good morning. I'm Tony Whitty, your worship associate this morning. My pronouns are he and him. On behalf of the entire worship team, I am delighted to welcome all of you, those of you in the sanctuary and those of you watching on the live stream, those of you who are undocumented or documented, those of you who identify as transgender or queer, and those of you who are allies of LGBTQ. All are welcome here. Thank you for joining us in this time of worship. We deeply appreciate your presence and fellowship as part of our beloved Unitarian Church of Montpelier. For 160 years, this church has been a sanctuary for those seeking spiritual sustenance, as well as peace and justice in the world. With you, we continue today on that path. It's always a pleasure to have newcomers and guests join us for worship. If this is your first or second time visiting, and you wish to do so, you are invited to stand or wave your hand so we might offer you a special welcome. Thank you. We are glad you are here. Any of you who are newcomers to our congregation are invited to fill out our welcome form available at the hospitality table in the vestry during coffee hour so that we can connect with you and welcome you more fully. Now, we can all join in the welcoming by taking a few moments to turn to your neighbor in the pews and share a few words of greeting. Thank you for sharing these warm greetings. You are invited to continue your conversation after the service during coffee hour. Please know that we have hearing assist devices available on the table at the rear of the sanctuary, and you can also listen to and watch the service in the fireplace room should you need to leave the sanctuary for any reason. A member of our lay pastoral care ministry team is available in the sanctuary after the service if you have a personal concern and would like to share more deeply. This morning, our lay pastoral caregiver is Betty McKinnell. Thank you, Betty. And now, let's take a deep breath, make sure our cell phones are silenced, and enter more deeply into our time of worship with the prelude.
You are beloved, and you are welcome here.
Whether tears have fallen from your eyes this past week, or gleeful laughter has spilled out of your smiling mouth.
You are beloved, and you are welcome here.
Whether you are feeling brave or brokenhearted, defiant or defeated, fearsome or fearful.
You are beloved, and you are welcome here.
Whether you have untold stories buried deep inside, or stories that have been forced beyond the edges of comfort, you are beloved, and you are welcome here.
Whether you have made promises, broken promises, or are renewing your promises,
you are beloved, and you are welcome here.
Whatever is on your heart, however it is with your soul in this moment,
you are beloved, and you are welcome here.
In this space of welcome and acceptance, commitment and recommitment of covenant and connection, let us worship together. I invite you to rise in body or spirit for our opening hymn, number 128 in the gray hymnal, For All That Is Our Life.
Let us now light the chalice, symbol of our Unitarian Universalist faith. This morning, we welcome Susan Koch to light the chalice. We light this beacon of hope, sign of our quest for truth and meaning in celebration of the life we share together. We covenant to we covenant to speak honestly and listen deeply to each other and the voice within. Treat each other with compassion and honor our differences. Take responsibility for the impact our words, actions, and inactions have on each other. Support each other in times of need and of grief. and celebrate the beauty and joy in our lives. Honor the gifts of the past and be gentle with each other as we grow. Encourage each other in the brave work of creating a more beloved community and a healthy, sustainable world. And forgive each other and start again.
Good morning. I'm Susan Koch. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm filling in for Caitlin today. She's not feeling well. So my message to you today is that after our spiritual exploration time, and at the conclusion of the service, children will return to the sanctuary to explore the chancel and practice singing with choir members, as the children and their adults, if they wish, will be singing in our all ages service next week. Today we will have a fun, laid-back 15 to 20 minutes to enjoy the experience of music together. Caregivers, please stay in the sanctuary after the service to pick up your children here and enjoy the fun. And as always, we are delighted to welcome new families to participate in our spiritual exploration program. If you have not already filled out a registration form, please come with your child to fill it out. You're welcome to stay with your child or return to the service after filling out the form. We are so happy to have you here.
Good morning, everyone. Today, I am so pleased to share with all of you the public launch of the UCM Climate Resilience Study Group. This study group has been charged by our governing board to identify and examine options for safe, accessible, and climate-resilient facilities for our congregation. They will be researching 5 options based on suggestions made by all of you last church year, identifying costs, opportunities, and challenges with the goal of bringing their findings without a recommendation to the board by the end of the calendar year. The 5 options that they are researching are: continue incremental improvements to this building after each future flood, make substantial resilience improvements and buy the best possible flood insurance, raise the church building at its current location or move the church building to a new location above future floods, sell the church building and build or rent space above future floods, and finally, share rental or acquired space above future floods with other organizations aligned with UCM's mission and values. The study group, as well as the board, the executive team, staff, committee chairs, and I, have all made a covenant with one another and a pledge to you, the congregation, that we will keep an open mind throughout the research process and engage with the congregation impartially until the study group has reported their findings. At this time, I invite all 13 members of the study group to please stand. I think most of you are present here in the sanctuary this morning. Our study group is co-chaired by Paul Olson and Steve Gold, and the other members of the steering committee are Brenda Bean and Susan Koch. Thanks to all of you for your service. The study group will be available for questions and conversations in the fireplace room beginning at 11:30, I believe. And I encourage you to join them, to learn more, and if you haven't picked up one of these flyers when you came in, to pick one of these up and take some time to learn more about this important initiative. Thank you.
It is a joy to be part of such an engaged community, and here is some of what's happening now. The UCM silent auction is open for bidding now until next Sunday evening. Thank you all who donated. Check out all the items using the link on the e-news, which I looked at last night. I was rather impressed by many of the offerings. And tell your family and friends. There are openings in the spring session of the small group ministry beginning in mid-March. This is a great way to build deeper personal connections with others in this church community. Contact Judith Hines or check the e-news for more details. There is a lot more going on in our community, so please consult the weekly e-news, which is carefully updated each week for its Friday morning publication. The act of giving is a spiritual practice as important as any other element in our shared time of worship. Our generosity is a form of love. Our gifts, freely given, help us to practice Unitarian Universalism within and beyond our congregation. Each month through the UCM Community Pouch Program, we share part of our collection with an important church fund or a community organization aligned with our values. This month's Community Pouch recipient is Barry Health Center, a branch of Planned Parenthood of Northern New England. Half of our cash offerings will go to our pouch recipient. The other half will directly support the mission and ministry of this congregation. You can find the offering pouches at the end of the pews on the side aisles. Please pass them towards the center aisle. We are grateful to each and every one of you for your generosity in its many forms. Your offering will now be gratefully received.
In this, our community of care and belonging, we hold one another with love in times of joy and in times of sorrow. And in that spirit, we share in a ritual of lighting candles of joy and concern twice a month. During this time, you might wish to come forward, share a special joy, something you're celebrating, so that we can celebrate with you. Maybe you have a personal concern or a loss, a challenge that you would like to name out loud in the company of this community so that we can offer you our love and support and prayers. In just a moment, I'll invite you to come forward and to share your name, and briefly, in a sentence or two, you can try composing it in your mind now. You can come and share your joy or concern before lighting a candle. And you can also come forward and light a candle in silence if you wish. As a reminder, and for folks who don't know, this service is being live streamed, and so anything shared here is being shared out with those who are viewing on our live stream now. We'll take out this portion of the service before putting the video in our archive. And if you're joining worship on the live stream, I welcome you to share a joy or concern in the chat if you'd like. As we begin this time of sharing joys and concerns, I invite us to take a moment now to recognize and presence ourselves to the fear and the pain and the harm that is being felt in our community due to executive orders and administrative policies that target trans and non-binary folks, refugees, asylum seekers, and migrants, and so many others. Know that you are loved, that you are held and supported by this community. We light a candle for mercy where there has been cruelty, for compassion where there is indifference, and for courage where there is fear. And now any of you who are present here in the sanctuary who wish to light a candle for a personal joy or sorrow, you're welcome to form a line on the left-hand side of the sanctuary. And we light a candle for all of those joys, gratitudes, concerns, and sorrows that are being held in the silence of our hearts this morning. And let us continue in this time of meditation and prayer. I invite you to settle your body in whatever way feels most comfortable for you. Settling into wherever you are, however you are, knowing that there is no other place for you to be. There is no other time for you to be than now. There is nothing for you to do but to be present here. And I offer you these words of prayer. Spirit of life and love, how is it that our hearts can be so full? How do our human hearts hold both gladness and despair, both rejoicing and mourning, both the lightness and heaviness of being? Help us to hold the complexities of life with grace. May our happiness never keep us from facing another's pain. May our despair never stop us from doing what we can. May our contentment never lull us into blocking out the world's sorrows. Open our hearts, Spirit of grace, to the all of life, that we might be ready to receive and to give, to witness
and to transform. In the name of all that is holy, we pray. Blessed be, and amen. And let us now join in a time of quiet meditation together.
Our reading this morning is the poem For When People Ask by Rosemary Watola Tromer. I want a word that means okay and not okay. More than that, a word that means devastated and stunned with joy. I want the word that says, I feel it all at once. The heart is not like a songbird singing only one note at a time, more like a Tuvan throat singer, able to sing both a drone and simultaneously 2 or 3 harmonics high above it, a sound, the Tuvans say, that gives the impression of wind swirling among rocks. The heart understands swirl, how the churning of opposite feelings weaves through us like an insistent breeze, leads us wordlessly deeper into ourselves, blesses us with paradox, so we might walk more openly into this world so rife with devastation, this world so ripe with joy. In 1992, the city of Sarajevo was bombarded, and much of it was leveled during an ethnically charged war for control of the capital city. Coffee shops gone, homes turned to dust, churches left as empty, crumbling vessels of the holy. 22 people were killed in a marketplace as they waited for food. And in the midst of that destruction, a cellist brought his instrument out into the streets in mourning. The melancholic and hauntingly beautiful notes reverberated against eviscerated concrete walls and through abandoned streets for 22 consecutive days. Vedran Smilovich would go on to play in abandoned buildings and at the funerals of neighbors and strangers who died in the war. Such beauty, such horror. 30 years later, history repeated itself. The human instinct to reach for delight amidst pain again was alive as a violinist brought out her instrument inside the basement of an apartment building turned into a bomb shelter in Kharkiv. A video of Vera Litovchenko playing a Ukrainian folk song went viral with the caption, "What we do in bomb shelters when they bomb us from the sky." In these times of terror and horror, what most astonishes me is not our human capacity to wreak havoc and dole out cruelty. It is our capacity to create beauty, offer comfort, and experience joy in the midst of unspeakable pain. This beautiful paradox became clear to me the other week as I was driving home and listening to the news on the radio. This was just a few days after the Palisades fire in Los Angeles had barely been contained. A reporter was walking through the Will Rogers State Historic Park with the state's Parks and Recreation Director, Armando Quintero. With great emotion, he talked about the significance of that park for Angelenos, especially those who don't have backyards of their own. The park offered a place to roam, to be among the trees, and to celebrate birthdays with family and friends. Quintero looked around, and with grief heavy in his voice, he lamented that it was now gone. But then just a moment later, he said, "But the birds are coming back." And his voice cracking with awe, he noted, "Oh, there's a deer right now." And he and the reporter paused and watched. Such horror, such beauty. These days, I am humbled by the vastness of human experience as we live life on this planet. Life is scorched earth and ash-laden streets. It is handcuffed grandfathers and orphaned children. Life is losing beloveds far too soon. And life is the new year marked by red envelopes and mooncakes. It is circling around a fire and singing songs. It is opening doors for shelter and a warm meal. Life is dancing with ecstatic freedom. Life is unbearably cruel, and life is filled with grace. The paradox is stunning. And though this juxtaposition is true, it can feel at times as though we are only living on one side of life's ledger, that all of the cruelty is stacked against you, or that none of it is, and you are far too privileged to take pleasure in life's ease. But none of us lives this simply, with only one story to our names. We are all touched by pain, and we all have joy knocking at our door. One thing I know is true in this moment is that staying in touch with our grief and our joy is necessary for our survival, personally and collectively. The social change theorist and teacher Margaret Wheatley writes, "For whatever future awaits us, we need human beings being fully human." We need human beings being fully human. Part of me thinks that maybe humans are the problem, with our propensity for greed and seeming inability to learn from the past. But the deeper and more beautiful truth is that it is our full humanity that will save us. It is only if we touch into our capacities for compassion, generosity, wisdom, creativity, and joy that we will have a future. To be fully human, we must allow ourselves to be open and responsive to the world as it is, to its horrors and its beauty. And trust me, I know how hard this is. The horror is overwhelming at times. It can be shocking, numbing. Our tender souls may seek retreat from all the pain, and our emotional survival may necessitate occasional withdrawal from the too muchness of the world. Yet we must take care in becoming too tuned out. The activist Joanna Macy has focused much of her teaching on honoring our pain and grief, and she says, there's no future if we go numb. One of the things I have discovered is that you do not numb yourself partially. All your response systems become affected. Not only does the pain become more muted, but so does the sparkle of the snow, the sweetness of the fruit, the colors of the sunrise, and the laughter of a child. The sociologist Brené Brown has found that this is true from her research on vulnerability. She says that we cannot selectively block out certain emotions. Wholeheartedness means allowing ourselves to feel the grief and sorrow so that we are more alive to the joy, delight, and contentment that are also a part of being human. Joy, delight, contentment, gratitude, awe, this is what sustains us through the hard times. To be resilient, we have to be willing to meet the fullness and complexity of life with open arms, to invite sorrow and pain in alongside joy at life's table. Yet being open to it all does not mean having to respond to it all. The challenge is to be open while also giving our attention to what's closest to us, who's closest to us, and most in our sphere of focus and agency, to find where your grief and your joy can meet and coexist in a grounding alchemy of presence and purpose. I have witnessed this powerful alchemy in our community in recent days as memories of a loved one were met with laughter and tears, as pledges were signed to protect our rights, as teens performing tragedy were cheered and applauded, as a ring shout made way for a dance party. And I also witness this powerful alchemy of the human spirit right here in our time of worship together. Together, we hold the intention of making space for the fullness of life to be present with us and present in our bodies. We sing together, stand together, pray together, breathe together to settle our bodies as well as nourish our spirits. We can trust that our bodies and our spirits can hold the complexity of life, the simultaneous delight and devastation. As we embrace the complexity of what it means to be human in this moment, we can be truly in this world as it is and just as we are. Each of us can be here, fully attentive to how we are called to engage in this life now. And this has been a hallmark of our Unitarian Universalist faith. Our concern is not for a heaven beyond this life or earth, not for the fate of our souls in the hereafter. Instead, our faith beckons us to sink into the depths of life here and now, to embrace all that life presents to us. To be fully human is to be in the here and now, open to life's excruciating sorrow and life's immeasurable joy. The poet Ross Gay asks, what if joy and pain are fundamentally tangled up with one another? What if joy is not only entangled with pain or suffering or sorrow, but is also what emerges from how we care for each other through those things? To make it through this moment and the next, we will each need to keep our hearts open, to find the ways we can extend our love and care to those within our reach, and to raise our voices in resistance and protest where and when we can. From these acts of compassion and care, born of grief and sorrow, joy emerges, making more whole what has been broken. Life contains it all. Life now is circling around a fire and whispering our most audacious dreams. It is baking grandma's molasses cookies for the weekly meal. It is building ancestral shrines and dancing the electric slide. It is painting and drawing, laughing and singing, and beckoning others to join us. The poet William Blake writes, "Joy and woe are woven fine, a clothing for the soul divine." Our divine souls and tender hearts can hold the breaking and the blessing. We can hear the birdsong and pluck the fiddle string. We can meet this moment, minds awake, hearts open, and hands ready. So may it be this day and in the days to come. I invite us to join in our closing hymn, Joy in the Morning. The words will be projected up at the front of the sanctuary. Please rise and embody your spirit.
as we draw our service to a close, we extinguish the chalice and carry within each of us its healing flame, the warmth of community, and the spark of hope into the days and the week ahead. Please join now in our unison mission statement. We welcome all as we build a loving community to nurture each person's spiritual journey, serve human need, and protect the earth, our home.
And may you go from here tender and open-hearted, trusting that your humanity matters, believing in the humanity of those around you. And I invite you to take a look around you at those near you, seeing these beloveds beside you. May you go honoring one another's pain and finding joy together. We conclude our service with the postlude.